Welcome to Advent Glen Gospel Mission Church. I'm Pastor Wayne. When hitting a ball in the game of golf, there is something every believer is taught that has puzzled me for a very long time. I'm not an avid golfer. It's been a few years now since I've actually played the game, but even with my limited experience playing golf, I've come to realize that what they say is absolutely true. In hitting a golf ball, what you do after you swing and hit the ball is just as important as swinging and actually hitting the ball. They teach you to follow through. I've never really quite understood why. What you do after you hit the ball and it's in the air, why that's so important. And yet it does seem to be very important. A few years ago, a pro golfer must have understood this principle because he did something that amazed everyone. The scores were very close between the foursome who were playing together. Competition was heating up. There's only a few holes left in the game to determine who the winner would actually be. All four players hit great tee shots, but all but our hero of this little story hit a great second shot. Our player, unfortunately, sliced into the rough. And on his third swing, as he tried to get out of the rough, his ball just dribbled about 4 feet ahead of him. And he was just furious. And he had a very difficult time calming down. And when it was his turn to hit his ball again, he was still boiling over inside and standing some distance behind his ball. In his anger, he was just violently slashing the grass around him with his club, venting some of his frustrations, when the club slipped out of his hand. And wouldn't you know it, as the club spun and tumbled through the air, it connected with his golf ball exactly right. And his ball ended up just 2 feet from the hole. He was right back in the game with a short putt. The follow-through of that flailing club had been perfect. Through the last number of months, we have been thinking about faith, what it is, how it works. With our prayer box in place, we are now putting our faith into practice. We are driving our faith down the road. And last week, we thought about how to be witnesses for the Lord as we drive our faith down the road and pray for the salvation of those that the Lord has asked us to pray for. But sometimes as we endeavor to be that witness for the Lord, we find things in our own lives that we think will prevent us from being effective in our witness for Jesus. We might find something in our life that we are just struggling with, a habit that we can't seem to find the victory over, an attitude that comes out of us at different times and different situations that causes us to act in ways that we wish we didn't act. Things in our lives that seem to be barriers for us to get on and be a witness for Christ. Things that we just can't find the victory over, that we think that are going to cause our witness for Christ to be tainted. And we won't be the kind of witness that we want to be for Jesus. And that's what we want to think about today. How can we be that witness for Christ that we want to be if we are struggling with something in our own lives, some kind of a difficulty? As we begin to think about that, let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we think about this very practical issue, help us to understand how you work in our lives so that we can be that witness that we want to be to glorify you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, there can be many different issues in our lives that the enemy will now use to tell us, to get us to think that we can't be a viable witness for Christ until we gain the victory in this area of our lives. And this morning, in these few moments that we are going to be thinking about these issues, we just can't think about every possible issue we may be facing. So what I've decided to do is just choose just one issue, one difficulty that is very common that many believers may struggle with from time to time throughout their lives. Let's think about how the Lord would deal with us in this just one particular issue, but apply those principles from that one issue to whatever other hindrance we may be facing. And the difficulty that I've decided to choose to deal with is unforgiveness. I think unforgiveness is an issue that many believers deal with different times in their lives and different ways in their lives. So understanding God's principles on this particular issue of unforgiveness may help us become overcomers in other areas of our lives. And like so many issues like these, the Lord may be clearly asking us to get rid of this particular thing in our lives. When it comes to unforgiveness, God does ask us to forgive. Because when we are holding on to unforgiveness, the only person that really is being affected is us. If the person who has harmed us or offended us in some way has knowledge of what has happened and desires not to bring harm to the relationship they have with us, they will also be attempting to find a solution to the problem. But if they don't need the problem solved, perhaps because they don't even believe there is a problem to solve, they have probably moved on, leaving us just holding this baggage of unforgiveness. Being upset with someone who has moved on, it doesn't irritate them. It doesn't bring them any harm. It doesn't bring the problem to their world. The only harm really being done is to ourselves. And the harm being done to ourselves is quite deep. If we need an illustration to help us understand the severity, we are poisoning our own personal spirit. This is why the Lord asks us to forgive, because His desire is to see us healthy, fully, completely. As long as we are holding on to this unforgiveness, which can manifest itself in us as revenge or even hatred or even a pride-inducing self-righteousness, we are blocking the rejuvenating, spirit-empowering work of God in our lives by not allowing Him access to that very part of our life. We are holding on to this spirit-defiling corruption, pushing God's goodness out of our lives. Instead of allowing the Lord free access to our lives to bring more of the life of Christ into our lives, we are allowing the pain and the hurt from whatever that situation was, we are allowing it to continue its work in damaging us. A slow poison that is continually growing in us, festering in us like a cancer. This is why the Lord asks us to forgive. And many other issues in our lives that we carry around with us do the very same thing. But this is where the rubber meets the road. Because many believers want to get rid of whatever that difficulty is that they're dealing with. For example, they want to find forgiveness, but they're really not too sure how to do it. They've gone to the Lord perhaps many times, asking the Lord just to change them, take this unforgiveness out of their lives, but the Lord doesn't seem to answer that prayer. Why doesn't the Lord answer those kind of prayers? Because that's not really how the Lord does it. He just doesn't reach in and take it out of us. He doesn't just take it away, because he has already shown us his method of dealing with that issue. And it's these few principles that we want to think about that are universal to any situation, any kind of hindrance that we may need victory over in our lives. And yes, we will be talking about unforgiveness. But these few principles are what we can use to find God's overcoming power to eliminate any kind of issue that we may be harboring in our lives, not just unforgiveness. And here's our first principle: obey the Lord. No matter what the hindrance may be, as we spend time with the Lord, he will be showing us how to overcome that particular difficulty in our lives, because that's his desire for every one of us. In him, he wants us to be victorious in all part of our lives. So what is the first thing we need to do? Listen to him and simply obey what he is telling us. Of course, if we're not spending time with him, that's a problem already. But the first principle is put your faith in God into action by listening to him and doing as he is asking you to do. So in this situation of unforgiveness, what may the Lord be asking us to do? Well, let's read what Jesus said that Luke recorded for us from Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 31. And here's what we read. But I tell you who hear me, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone takes your cloak, do not stop him from taking your tunic. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. In our illustration here of unforgiveness, what has the Lord already told us to do from his words that he spoke? If we happen to find ourselves in that situation of unforgiveness, Jesus here says first, pray for your enemy. Pray for the person or persons who have upset you, who have hurt you. God instructs us to bless our enemies. And second, the Lord tells us to never curse our enemy, which simply just means never say anything negative about them or against them ever again. Only speak good of them. Now, from a worldly viewpoint, that sounds totally ridiculous. We should be getting revenge. Our pound of flesh. We should be suing for damages. We're letting everyone know just how wicked those people are. But that's not God's way of dealing with the issue. It's not God's way to help us become victorious over unforgiveness. We as believers are not engaged in worldly things or worldly activities in the way the world participates in. We are part of the spiritual battle that is taking place all around us in this world. And spiritually, evil is defeated by goodness. That's what Jesus did on the cross. Love, joy, peace, patience, etc. Those are our weapons of war that overcomes the world. How does this work? When we bless someone with the very goodness of the Lord, what are the two ingredients that make a relationship with the Lord even possible? Every relationship with the Lord is built upon spirit and truth. The first thing the Lord then does when initiating a relationship with anyone is uncover the things in that person's life that oppose God's Spirit and His truth. If there is something that needs attention in someone's life who desires to be in a relationship with the Lord so they can participate deeper in the very life of Christ, then that issue is going to be brought to the surface by the Lord to be dealt with. The Lord is going to initiate the process of sanctifying that life. So what does the Lord here tell us to do when we have unforgiveness for someone? We are to bless our enemy. So God then starts His work of bringing them His love, His joy, His peace, His patience, His kindness, by revealing and pushing out any hindrances that person may have to the Lord's love and joy and peace. By blessing the one who hurt you, you may find them suddenly one day at your door, seeking to repair the very relationship that has been disrupted, because the Lord has now changed them. Which means, how do we overcome our unforgiveness? We listen now to these instructions of the Lord and we obey Him, even when we don't feel like it. A walk of faith has nothing to do with our feelings. Our faith is based on God speaking to us and us listening to what the Lord says and trusting Him. Trusting God in this way, it doesn't mean it is going to be a journey that is just effortless. There's going to be difficult moments in the life and the journey that we walk with the Lord. And it's going to take determination based on our faith in the Lord to follow Him. And it doesn't mean that as we trust the Lord, we are never going to get hurt again. No, we will probably get hurt again because this is the world that we live in. Yet by following the Lord's instructions, we now allow God's grace to go to work in our lives to win the victory over that unforgiveness that we are holding on to. In any other hindrance that we may have allowed to establish in our lives, the same principle applies. Listen and obey whatever the Lord may ask us to do, because now it is opening up our lives for His work in us. By listening and following the Lord's ways, we give the Lord the freedom now to do His work of sanctification in our lives. As Romans 12:21 says, we overcome evil, even in our own lives, with the Lord's goodness. It's in the follow-through that our faith in the Lord, we follow His instructions. We allow Him to accomplish His work in us. We hit the ball, but we keep walking with Him. Through obedience, we get to exercise the majestic love of God, and we now begin to understand God's work of grace in our lives. And our testimony of God's work in our lives becomes that witness to others of who Jesus is and what He can do in a person's life. So if you need the Lord to help you with some issue in your life that has or is poisoning your spirit, something in your life that you think is absolutely unchangeable because you've bought into the lie that says, well, this must be how the Lord has created me and there's nothing I can do about it, then just start listening to the Lord and start obeying his instructions. His ways are simply not our ways. And if you're not spending time with him so that you can listen to his instructions, well, then make some changes to spend time with him. Spend time with him. Read your Bible. He is speaking. Listen. Obey. Place your faith in him. He knows what he's doing. And then watch what he does, even in your life. And it's all in the follow-through. Keep walking with him. Stay in step with the Spirit, and his victory will be yours. Dear Heavenly Father, you are magnificent, and what you do in our lives is miraculous. You change us into the very likeness of your Son, Jesus. Do your work in us. May we listen to you and simply obey, and then give you all the thanks and praise. Amen. And if you're wondering about this whole process, listen to what David wrote as recorded for us in Psalm 25, as he was learning these same principles and learning to walk with the Lord. David wrote, "To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. In you I trust, O my God. Do not let me be put to shame," David said, "nor let my enemies triumph over me. No one whose hope is in you will ever be put to shame, but they will be put to shame who are treacherous without excuse. Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me. For you are God, my Savior, and my hope is in you all day long. Remember, O Lord, your great mercy and love, for they are from of old. Remember not the sins of my youth and my rebellious ways. According to your love, remember me, for you are good, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore, he instructs sinners in his ways. He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them his way. All the ways of the Lord are loving and faithful for those who keep the demands of his covenant. For the sake of your name, O Lord, forgive my iniquity, though it is great. Who then is the man that fears the Lord? Well, he will instruct him the way chosen for him. He will spend his days in prosperity, and his descendants will inherit the land. The Lord confides in those who fear him, who make his covenant known to them. My eyes are ever on the Lord, for only he will release my feet from the snare. Turn to me. Be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. The troubles of my heart have multiplied. Free me from my anguish, David writes. Look upon my affliction and my distress, and take away all my sins. See how my enemies have increased, and how fiercely they hate me. Guard my life. Rescue me. Let me not be put to shame, for I take refuge in you, David wrote. May integrity and uprightness protect me, because my hope is in you. May David's words, David's understanding be yours.